All right, what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power. I've got a couple of interesting stories for you guys today. The first story, the Olympia press conference, classic physique. As you can see here, Breon Ansley stripped down on stage and started hitting some poses. Now, they did something a little bit different this year for classic physique, for the press conference in general. They didn't have the full panel of everybody sitting on stage at once, and maybe that's because of the pandemic. I don't know, but they switched it up this year, and they had two microphones on stage, and they did kind of a head-to-head question and answer type of thing, and then Chris Bumstead came out, and all three of them were on stage. So it looks like that's the way they're going to do it from here on out, which was kind of an entertaining change, I guess, compared to the panel. One thing that I actually like about the panel format is the fact that you can see all the other athletes in the background reacting to whatever someone is saying. So if the champ is saying they can't be beaten, or second place is saying they're going to beat the champ, you get to see kind of everybody's reactions in the background to the trash talk, and I think that was the cool part about the panel. But as you can see, Breon stripping down and posing here. He said that he was off last year, and he's very confident this year that he is not only going to beat Terrence, but beat Chris. Now, personally, I thought Chris had one of the funniest comebacks of really this press conference, because when Breon took off his shirt, he set it on Chris's shoulder, and Chris responded and said, "That shirt's about 3 sizes too small for me, buddy." But here's what else Chris had to say.
From Canada, Chris Bumstead.
All right, big man. Well, here's somebody that's got some. You guys are arguing about who's the best out here, but Chris Bumstead, mustache back on.
This is cute.
Who is the best?
This is really cute, I'm not gonna lie, you know? I've said it before, and they're out here, they're battling for second place, so we let them, they come out here, they want to have their little fun on stage, they want to fight, and we all know when Saturday comes, they're fighting for second place, so that's why they're out here. And
Is he ever getting his title back?
never. He's done. He's gone.
I think he's got you in the 212, bro. How about this guy? He was right on your tail, or was he?
It depends when I choose to retire, honestly, so.
Oh, okay.
That's when he'll get his chance.
Now, next up in the news, we have another update of James Hollingshead. This, I believe, is the most recent one, just days out from the Olympia. This is actually in his hotel room for the Olympia. And James, for me, in this lineup is a massive wild card. I think anything could happen with James. He could be as high as top 6, top 10. It's just really kind of it's a gray area, because like I said before, we haven't seen him compete next to these really, really high-level guys. We've seen him win a couple of shows last year. I guess technically you could put James in the same conversation that we're putting Ian Valliere and Nick Walker in, because he won the British Grand Prix and the Europa Spain back-to-back. So even though it was a long time ago, or at least it feels like a long time, James is technically the third guy going into this Olympia off of 2 professional wins, which is a really big deal, because when you think about it, while there is several guys going into this show off of 1 win, some of them, actually a lot of them, are qualified from last year's Olympia placing. Some of them are qualified on points, so no wins, and then some of them are qualified off of a second place placing, like Rolly with the Europa Spain this year. So when you really think about how everybody qualified for this show, the guys that won 2 pro shows back-to-back right before this Olympia are really some of the most impressive guys in this lineup on paper, because there's several guys in this lineup that haven't won a single show this competitive season. So James is really a guy, he looks crazy in these pictures. You've got the striated glutes. It looks like James is bringing that grainy condition that he's become known for after that Europa Spain and the British Grand Prix last year. Look, man, he's a real wild card. I have no idea where he's going to end up landing in this lineup, but he could land extremely high, just depending on, how everybody else comes in, and really how he stacks up next to these other top guys. Because even though he won the British Grand Prix and the Europa Spain, I don't even know if there was anybody in this lineup, in this Olympia lineup, at either of those shows. But hey, James looks phenomenal. Now, next up in the news, Chris Bumstead giving us more physique updates. Just days away from the Olympia on his YouTube channel, he recently shared some very brief posing clips that you can see here. And look, honestly, this is kind of why I wish there was a place that you could go and bet on bodybuilding, because I'd be willing to bet a pretty large amount of money on Chris Bumstead winning a 3rd title this year. And look, no disrespect to any of the other competitors competing in classic physique, but I really just don't see any of them beating this physique. Chris is just This is what classic physique is. He is the epitome of that division, and I think these guys are going to have a really hard time beating him. Now, one guy that would love to beat Chris Bumstead is Breon Ansley, and he's a guy that is no stranger to beating Chris Bumstead because he's one of the only guys in this lineup that has ever beaten Chris before. Actually, I don't know how many other guys in this lineup. Has anyone beaten Chris before besides Breon? It would have had to have been outside of the Olympia, if so, because 17 he took second, 18 he took second, 19 he won, and 20 he won. So yeah, Breon, I think, is the only guy in this lineup that's ever beaten Chris. But Breon, in his latest update, not looking too shabby himself, even though he is one of the older guys in this lineup at 41 years old. He's looking sharp in these updates. He's looking conditioned in these updates, and he acknowledges in these updates that he's flat because he's trying to make weight tomorrow, but he says he's going to be his best yet. And that's kind of the thing that I think has been hurting Breon, is he has a tough time making that weight limit. And I do think in these pictures, he does look very flat. And that's kind of the thing that maybe throws him off at the last minute, maybe threw him off last year, putting him in third. And the question this year is, will Breon be able to move up, maybe move back up into second, maybe try to win, or will he move down even more from that third place placing? Personally, my prediction is he's going to move down even more from third. I've seen some people predicting. I saw Greg Doucette predict that Breon is going to move up into second. Personally, I think it's going down. Now, next up in the news, we have one more physique update from the mutant Nick Walker, a side chest, and I believe this was taken yesterday, so the same day as the abdominal shot and the rear double bicep shot. Again, he looks good. Like I mentioned earlier, all you guys know this, Nick is going into the Olympia off of 2 wins, back-to-back wins. The Arnold and the New York Pro. He's in my top 6. I believe I have him placing 4th in my top 6 predictions. And I think that's a really solid prediction for Nick. I think at this point, Nick would have to come in pretty off to not be a candidate for first call-out, to not be a candidate for top 6. Just based on his track record so far, he stood next to some of the best guys on the Arnold Classic stage. He beat some of the best guys on the Arnold Classic stage. I don't see any reason why he wouldn't be in the top 6 unless something happens to a point where he just comes in completely off. But honestly, that's my prediction for Nick. I think 4th place, very solid, could be higher. But just keep in mind the guys ahead of him, Bonac, Brandon Curry, Hadi Chupin, and Big Ramy, those are going to be very difficult guys to beat. Those are guys that Nick hasn't faced, and those are guys that obviously weren't at the Arnold Classic, and I think they're going to be a really big challenge for him. But still, top 6 I think solid. But Hadi, Bonac, Brandon, Ramy, it's going to be hard for Nick to beat those guys. Could he beat 1 or 2 of them and find himself in the top 3? I think that is possible. I do think it's possible. I know some people might think that's a stretch or that's too much hype. I think it's possible he cracks the top 3. Maybe not very likely, but possible. Now, next up in the news, another guy that I think could be a real threat in this Olympia lineup was your 4th place finisher at the 2021 Arnold Classic, and that is Justin Rodriguez. He posted this physique update. Let's see, I believe he said this was 1 day out. This rear lat spread. Justin brought some really good conditioning to the Arnold Classic. I think he's going to bring very similar conditioning to the Olympia stage, and I'm really excited to see what he's able to put together here. He's a guy that I was really impressed by at the Arnold Classic, and I think he's a guy that's going to impress a lot of people here at the Olympia as well. And I think there's a chance he places really highly at this year's Olympia. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. That's going to wrap it up for the video today, guys. If you guys are enjoying all this content, make sure you thumbs up the video, and I will keep posting multiple times a day. Keep you guys covered completely 360, anything Olympia. I'll cover it for you guys. As long as you're enjoying it, just make sure you like the videos. It's cheap, it's easy, it's free. Cheap and free. Can something be cheap and free at the same time? But if you like the video, like the video. Subscribe if you haven't already. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. Nick Strength and Power signing out.